Hi, this is Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. I am certain that paint jumps up and hits me because I've not even started with paint yet. So today I am mainly going to be monoprinting with my gel plate and using some fabulous new stencils that I've received from PM Artist Studio. So PM Artist Studio are a mother-daughter team. The P stands for Patricia, and she's a retired art teacher, and the M is for Mariah, and she is a graphic designer, and together they are PM Artist Studio. And within the package they included this little envelope that has a superb artist trading card in it. It's very thick and it's very tactile. I love it. Now, I am going to take a couple of minutes just to look at all the stencils before I actually start using them, because I'd like you to see them and I'd like you to see the names of them. The names are just about as creative as the stencils themselves. So I'll show them to begin with, and then I will speed up the video and get on with the gel printing. So this was another little package, and what's in here, I was trying very carefully not to tear it, but didn't actually succeed. But in here are lots of little bits of papers that at some point I will use to make some ATCs. It's lovely receiving this from other artists because perhaps colours that I might not normally use, so I can get creative using something that little bit different. So let's take a look at the stencils. So let's open the first one, and the great thing about these stencils is that they come in different sizes. Some are ATC size, so ideal for just using on small pieces of art or small ATCs, or even if you just want to include a little bit of stenciling in a bigger page. Now, it took me a few seconds to get this packaging open. I don't know what I was doing, I just couldn't work out. I've already had them all open, but I struggled there for a moment or two to get this one out. So great information leaflet in there as well that shows you an actual image of what the stencil will look like. And don't worry, I won't do this for all of them. I will show you them all, but I'm not going to show you me opening them all. So this one is the Blooms ATC size, and it's lovely. 3 different size of flower head, I guess, on that stencil. And you'll see there that they actually cut these from 74-pound Yupo paper. Now, Yupo isn't actually a paper, it's a kind of synthetic paper, so it is more a kind of plastic, and you know, I have to say it's great for this. So that one there was the Swirling Swirls. A bit of a mouthful. Now I'm going to look at a lattice. This is a 4x8 stencil. And next, cups, caps and bowls. And those are ATC size. And you'll get to see me use all of these. This one, all my X's came from Texas, and I was actually in their live stream when Mariah came up with the name for this. So this is a series of, they could be used as borders, they can be used anywhere on a page or on the gel plate, but just a different sort of size there. And these are all fabulous. Loved these. I got ever such a lot from them, you know, they really are great. So this is a fingerprint, and that's the ATC size. Next is Stompy Rocks. Like I said, they've got some great names. I was going to write the names on with a pen, but I think I can work out, because I'll keep the sheets, I'll be able to work that out anyway. So this was the Arty Squiggle set. So those are the stencils that I'm going to be using, and I will say a little bit more about PM Artist Studio as we go through. but they do have a live stream every Sunday, 10 AM Central, which at the moment is 4 PM British summertime, and yeah, it's well worth a look in. So I'm just cutting my paper down to size, just so that there's not so many white edges when I use my gel plate, and the little bits I will keep off to the side. I've also got some A3 watercolour paper here, and I'm going to cut it down to 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches to make some ATCs, and I have my cutting board marked up to make it that bit easier. Now I'm not going to clean my gel plate, but I am just loosening it off around the edges where there's a paint on it. I'm just loosening that off in the hope that when I'm doing my gel printing it will pick it up a bit here. So really just going to do some plain pages to begin with. That's pistachio, and you can see it's already picking up some of the colour. I'll try and just list the paints as I go along, but this is the kind of thing you just use whatever you've got. Yep, and there again picking up some of the stuff around the edges. Okay, burnt umber in a fluid acrylic now. So I just want to get a few pages done so that I can then use the stencils on the back of this. And I really like the look of that. Yes, there's some white bits around the edges, but that's not a problem. Those can be coloured in with inks or whatever at another point, or a little bit of paint. Wanted to mix that pistachio and the burnt umber just to give it a slightly, I don't mean grungy as such, but just to kind of tone down the pistachio a bit, I guess. And I can fit 8 cards onto my gel plate there. So just pushing them down. Now the stuff around the edge does stop me getting a kind of, well, I wouldn't say perfect because it's never going to be perfect, but look at the stuff it does pick up, and you'll see later how I cover in some of those spots. So again, using more of that burnt umber. And now just going to use one page to see what I can lift here. And liking that a lot as well. So the thing about gel plate printing is it does take some practice. Quinacridone Azo Gold now I think it is, and I'm going to use the lattice stencil. Yeah, gel plate printing, you know, I've seen a couple of people say that they've got them and they can't get them to work. Really, you've just got to keep practicing and you will get there. So using some of those cards that I'd already put some colour on and just picking up some of the lattice, and now just using that sheet of paper with the pistachio and picking up some there. I looked to see if I could get anything off the stencil, but it was already dry, but using some of those other cards there just to get a little bit on it, seeing what I can pick up. And for me this is all about just building up layers and getting that sense of texture with the different stencils, with the paint being picked up. There I try and pick up a bit of the colour of the stencil, but there was really nothing left on it. It dried pretty quickly. Sprayed some water on it to see what it would do, but no, it was dried in. Took an old dried up baby wipe with the water on there, and I'm getting something. I hate to waste any paint at all. So here's the blooms ATC size and the cups, caps and bowls. Really looking out all the ATC sizes and just going to start to use these. Now I've got some Pebeo modelling paste, and what I want to do here is to take some of the blank cards and just use these stencils on the blank cards. Now I will say this is not my favourite modelling paste. I don't know what it is about it. It's quite thin in some ways and it does take a while to dry. Most modelling or texture pastes do take a little while to dry, but the one I had before for the texture paste, which I can't remember if it was a Daler Rowney, can't remember. I preferred it to this, but I've got it, so I am going to use it. And these little ATC sizes are wonderful. I love them for this. I really enjoyed using these. And of course, in some instances, you can put the whole thing down on the card, kind of centering it, or just doing a little edge. So doing it on some plain cards and doing it on some of the cards that already have some colours on them. And really today for me is about experimenting with these stencils, just seeing what results I can get. And that turned out really well. It's a great little stencil. There I am, just using the large bloom. So I think it just shows how versatile these are. You can put them all on or just some. And they're just using up the excess modelling paste that was on that piece of greaseproof paper, just using the excess and that stencil, and that will be used for a bit of collage in future. So the squiggly set now, or part of it, the Stompy Rocks. And I've got the other kind of border ones out. And what I'm going to do here is just to kind of lay them onto the gel plate, or at least I've seen how they would lay on. I'm taking a Payne's Grey. I'm going to blend that out with my brayer, roll it out with my brayer, and now put a number of these down. Going to take that page that I'd already got some background colour on. Now, just using my fingers to feel through the stencils. This is easier done with this paper, which is just simply printer paper, copy paper. It's easier done with this than it is with the thicker watercolour paper, and I really liked the way that turned out. Now you can see the design is still on the plate there. Just going to take a plain sheet of paper and see what I can lift from that. And I love this. I thought that looked really, really cool. And I will show you a quick flip through some of them once we get to the end. So using more of that Payne's Grey and more of this type of stencil, the kind of longer narrow ones. And the thing about PM Artist Studio is I think they're quite open that if you wanted a stencil in a particular size, I think they're quite open to kind of looking at what they can do. So I will leave links to them below, to their YouTube channel of course, and I'll link to a particular video of theirs as well when they say a little bit more about themselves, and I'll also put a link to their website and their shop site just in case you're interested. This is not a sponsored video, you know, I'm not looking to earn commission or anything like that off this. I'm doing this because I think they are great artists and they are producing some quite unique stencils, different to a lot of what you see around, and yeah, so I was really happy to try these out. So putting some white down on my plate now. I loved that last lot that came off, very textured looking, the Payne's Grey. I think that's going to become a new favourite of mine for a while. It's funny, I go through different phases of different colours. So just using the white to see what I can pull up off the plate. So coming out quite grey, because obviously I'd been using the Payne's Grey beforehand, just loosening up some of those edges again. I do keep meaning to put up a video on how I clean my gel plate, and I will get that up at some point. I've got a few bits and pieces of film sitting around that I must bring to completion and get up. So, you know, that didn't look much, but that will be something once I get once I start to put something on top of it. Okay, this was totally blocked up. I couldn't clear it, and in the end I just discarded it for today. So using this now, Plum Garden, got this from Craftbox UK. And really I just pulled out a big selection of paints to do this. I just wanted to try and get some different colours. Doing that again as a kind of background. Putting a bit more down. Trying to get that through there. Got a little bit. There I am, just putting it on the edge there. And again, just going to pick up what's left. And all of this makes great collage paper, or, you know, for collaging on other ATCs, or for including in mixed media pieces. So there, I've changed the colour of those. So rather than it just being the Payne's grey, it's got the plum on the top now. So now I'm taking this other acrylic paint. Again, I got this from Craftbox UK. Giving this a good stir. I'd used it recently, I just shook the tub, but it really does need to be stirred. Not shaken, stirred. So just going to see what I can pull from this one. This was the swirling swirls. Feeling through it with my fingers just to get the paint on. And then picking up what's left on another sheet. There I go again, trying to pick it up off the stencil, and I got a little bit that time. So back to the Payne's grey, and you'll see I'm not putting it over the entirety of the plate here. And again, just using that same stencil to see what I can get here. And of course I've already got the kind of grey background, and that stands out quite nicely. And again, picking that up, and I like that one too. Again, just doing a bit of a kind of clean off sheet on one of them that I already had. So looking at how I could match those up so that if I go to make ATCs, I will have a decorated back and front. So just looking at what I've got so far, which ones are more just kind of pull sheets and which ones I maybe want to do a little bit more on. Just adding a bit more colour. Now, of course, these stencils could also be used for actually in a more traditional stencil type fashion, where you use a brush or a cosmetic sponge or whatever to stencil through, but I decided to keep it more just with the gel plate today. So here I am, just trying to pick up a little bit, just on different parts of that print. And I thought the pink and the grey went quite well together. I think it's rose something, this particular paint. I usually try and list all my paints in the description box. I use so many today, I'm not going to do that, because it's, if there was something you were interested in knowing, then do let me know, but otherwise I will leave it this time. So trying to pick up every little bit of the gel plate. Some of those sheets getting a little bit grungy in places, just as I like them. So quinacridone violet in a fluid acrylic this time. And and putting those long stencils back on. I don't mind that they're overlapping in places because it's really just about trying to pick up different things here. I cover the centre bit using some of those little cut-off pieces from earlier, just because I didn't want to have a page where it had the big block of that colour through it. I'd rather add something back in later. Now, I had faffed about a bit too much with that, and the paint had actually dried before I got to the point of getting the stenciling properly done. Just going to use some of that quinacridone Azo Gold again, and just seeing what that will pull up. And I'm thinking, ooh, I like those colours together. So a bit more of that. Trying to move a little bit more quickly now to try and pick some of it up. Because it's fluid acrylic, because it's a thin layer, because that particular day it was quite warm, it was drying really quite quickly. And this is why I say, you know, if you've got a gel plate and you're not getting the results you want, you do just have to experiment. And it doesn't turn out every time, that's just a way of it. And I am loving that kind of combo of colours. That is something I will be working with a lot more in future. It's funny how when you're experimenting, just having a play, suddenly something hits a chord and you think, oh, haven't tried that before. Now that has totally changed the look of that, and I love it. You know, it's pushed the kind of design into the background a bit, but it's still there, and to me it looks good. So this is a transparent yellow ore or iron or something. Just thought I'd introduce that, and again, loving the way that looks. Those colours are just working so well together. I've used this paint or this colour a few times in the past and been slightly disappointed with it at times, but it's like I've just hit the right combo today. You can see I'm stopping and thinking about what I want to do next. Again, trying to move quickly so that particular paint doesn't dry. Now getting some ATCs down. Trying to push it through. And picked up little bits here and there. As I say, the thicker paper is harder to get through. But there, just before it's drying fully, I'm able to pick up some little bits on the cards. And again, this just all adds texture. It's just a kind of form of mark making in a way. Just getting that kind of thing down and onto the background of these cards. So adding a little bit more colour there. Doesn't matter if I put the whole card down or just a little bit. Just all about building layers of interest. So, back to the burnt umber. And just using little sections of the stencil to try and get some marks onto my cards, and then using some of those strips to try and get a bit more. I'm going to try and pick that up, but putting another colour on top to begin with, because it will have already dried. And you can see it lightly through there. So I'm going to change the look of that one there just by adding colour. So I've got the stencil in the background, adding some colour, and again, I love that. And I love how this card turns out. I just started to pick up little bits here and there. It was picking up some of the hard, crusty bits from the edges. You can just see it there. I'm going to add a little bit more paint because that will help pull the underneath stuff up. Of course, once I start doing that, I find it hard to stop, but I love that card. So, this is some time later because I had to wait for the texture paste to dry. So I've got a few paints out, or sprays. Those cosmic shimmers didn't work at all. They must be blocked, so I decided just to leave them. So I'm looking at adding some colour. This is is it Tattered Angels they call them? Oh, I forget now. I've only got 2 of these, but I do like the combination of them together. So of course the texture paste is picking up some of that colour as well, but doing this also allows me to fill in those little white spaces with a bit of colour. Giving them a dry at this point and loving the way that the background has become really textured looking. Just a similar process here. Now, if I remember rightly, the Tattered Angel sprays are not permanent, but so if there was any water went on them, they could change again. But I do something else to these in a little while that it won't shift in future. So I've put one colour down, now the other. And as it looks there, it doesn't look as if they're going to, as if they go well together, but I think what I do later really changes the look of them. I have used those 2 colours together in the past on things, and I'll try and link the video to it, and you'll see how they can work well together. So this is another paint that I got from Craftbox UK, and I'm giving this a really good stir. It was very thick at the bottom. This is called Alchemy. So just using my finger to take it right over the card, and it has the effect of changing the Tattered Angel colours a little bit, but also sealing them in and kind of blending them together just in certain places, and I think that looks beautiful. The one with the blooms in particular is beautiful, though I really do like the fingerprint as well. So here I am, just using it over some other cards as well. You can see that it kind of makes the pattern of the stencil stand out a bit. This one is called Mooney. So again, it needs a good stir. And again, just going over it. And when the light hits these, it's really nice. It really does highlight the pattern and changes the colours a little bit. So giving them all a good dry at this point. So dioxine purple, the gold again, the azo gold, and I think it was another purpley one, I forget the name of it. So I've put those on, I am just rubbing them in with my fingers, and you'll see in a moment that I actually start to take the colour from one across to the other, just to break them up a little bit. And I'll give them a good dry at this point. So I decided here to use some kind of gold lustre. Using the sponge just to blend it in a little bit. I didn't quite get the effect that I wanted at times. Here I'm using the green one, and I prefer this. So with this one I just kind of go over that diagonal area where I've put the stencil on, but again blending it out a little bit. So go back to this one and actually add some green onto it. Added a little water there just to take it off where I felt it was all getting a little bit too thick. So this is an Arteza metallic paint, that was a turquoise, and what I'm trying to do here is mainly pick up the pattern of the stencil, and I just spray some water where I don't want it. Now what I could have done here was to lay the paint down on the gel plate and then to lift it onto the card that way. This is chartreuse, this is a lovely colour. And again, just picking up the kind of bloom stencil there. This is glacier blue now. I'm just going to do a similar process here, just picking up the blooms. And dabbing off where I don't particularly want it. Here I'm just trying to lighten these cards a little bit in the background. So I go right over the card, and then I just use my sponge to try and pull it over the high areas where the stencil's been, where the modelling paste is, and just to bring those up a little. I use Pearl Rose here. I'm not sure it's significantly different enough from the kind of base colour to allow that to come through as much as I would have wanted. This is Golden Hour, and again doing much the same here, trying to get it down and into the background, and then I'll pull the sponge across and just try and lift some of the paint off the raised areas. Just using my brush this time to go in between those a little. This time I just use my paintbrush to put some colour on, and I match it up with the stencil. Now I should have said that after using the modelling paste I did wash these stencils off completely. I often won't wash them after I've used paint, but with modelling paste I do, because otherwise it can kind of spoil the design next time you go to use it. Just tidying it up with my paintbrush there. So I've had a lot of fun in this gel plate stencil session. Just a reminder, the stencils come from PM Artist Studio, and they have a YouTube channel and they do a live stream every Sunday, and I'll leave all the links below. I think what I loved about these stencils, they're great designs, and you are not going to see these everywhere, you know, like some of the absolute mass-produced stencils. I love the way the ATCs have come out, both in terms of those where I've used it as a stencil on the gel plate, but also where I've used the modelling paste. I think the designs are great. I really do enjoy them. So these ATCs are not finished. I have more work to do on them, but I've taken them so far. I've got the kind of base down, and I've also got lots of collage material here that could be the backs on some ATCs, might be used as collage, little bits of collage on ATCs, or might indeed go on to be in journal pages. So just doing a quick flip through some of them. So I hope you've enjoyed this session. I will show me finishing some of these ATCs at some point in the not too distant future. So thanks ever so much for watching. Do take care. Bye for now.